there's no thinking. They're just like, you play it and they're like, okay, I've got an idea, I need to get up and I need to put this down, and then we're good to go.
So my name's SJ.
I'm Ren.
And together we're 2FVDED.
We're in West London.
Yeah.
We're in our studio.
We've worked with artists such as Wretch32,
AJ Tracy,
Avelino,
Ambush,
Dappy,
Dion Wayne.
Yeah.
The list goes on.
The list goes on.
Right now, London is just such an exciting place to be. Like, starting to make so much noise globally. It's a blessing to be a part of a growing scene.
Yeah, and to just grow up here as well.
Yeah, but a cultural influence, the Caribbean influence, African influence. It's an exciting place right now.
We actually knew each other from college. We both did a music course there.
Yeah.
Went to the same university as well.
I used to record on his beats.
Yeah.
So that was kind of how we started working together.
Pretty much.
Yeah, he was my producer, I believe.
When I first started, I thought Timbaland was doing everything himself and Dr. Dre was doing everything by himself. It was only till when I started seeing more videos of them in the studio, I realised, it's actually a collaborative thing. I asked nearly everyone starting up by themselves to just try and collaborate.
It's like, it inspires more ideas, just makes it more fun as well.
The possibilities just kind of open up a lot more. And just merging different styles as well. I think collaborative work is some of the best work. Collaborate with other producers or even other musicians.
Yeah, and even just a better product, just overall.
Yeah. I work with Logic Pro, Ren's on FL.
Still find a way to merge them together.
Yeah. I mean, if anything, I feel like it's made our workflow a lot quicker because knocking out drums on FL is super quick, and doing the melodic stuff on Logic, like no matter what the technology is, you can get the work done. As long as you're creating music, it doesn't really matter how you're doing it.
Each DAW has its strengths and weaknesses, I guess, and we just try to focus on the strengths of each DAW. And I think like the background that we come from, we started off as bedroom producers, kind of just make do with what you have and what you can.
Yeah.
Like me and SJ would do this thing where one would go for a interface, and then the other one would go for an aux, and then we would just kind of like time when we press play.
Yeah, that's been the biggest test. It's pressing the space bar at the exact same time.
Yeah. There's always a way to make it work, you know what I mean? So,
yeah. Kind of both take turns with it.
Yeah, we take turns, exactly. SJ might come in with an idea that he did at home, or I might come in with an idea, and then we'll just like sort of help each other elevate the vision we initially had. And I might do drums, SJ might do bass or melody, or vice versa. While
Ren's in headphones working on the next idea, I might be either recording the current idea or maybe fixing up parts of the beat on the other track.
Yeah.
Or we might just both be working on the same track.
Wretch is quick.
That boy's rapping.
Wretch is quick. Like literally, like when me and SJ are still to a certain extent trying to figure out the production.
He's ready in the booth. He's already in the booth.
Ready to go.
Having a quick workflow, it is a must.
I think when it comes to the sessions, you have to be quick, efficient, and focus on less. Our job is to help them get the idea out as quick as possible, and taking long and being a bit specific on certain tweets, it can sort of throw them off. They just don't have the same energy or feeling that they did.
Especially with going back to Wretch as well, especially with artists like him who doesn't write down his lyrics. So everything's all in the head, so you don't want it to lose it. You don't want it to lose it, so you really need to just be as quick as possible, efficient. Make sure that you got the right ingredients.
Yeah, the right ingredients.
For the artist to just be free and just go in and do what they do.
Yeah.
Feeling is
like the most important thing.
Yeah.
And like when you work with an artist in a session, even them not hearing themselves right can just completely throw off the ideas. So you have to make sure that they hear themselves, the plugins we're using going in, the hardware. So when they hear themselves back, they feel confident in themselves and in us to sing or perform, thinking of more ideas because they sound good.
Yeah, it's true. I feel like we've all probably been there, but when I first started out, I wasted so much money on the latest plugins and latest gear, thinking that I needed this crazy studio setup because that's what I saw on YouTube watching, you know, producer videos. And I realized, you know, the gear can help. It can get you to, you know, a great place, but it really just starts with the source. A great artist, great recording techniques, and just making sure the artist is as comfortable as possible and you're capturing, you know, the best from that person.
You've always said that mixing isn't for fixing. So as long as you've got a great performance going in,
it's true.
That's like the most important thing. And having expensive equipment definitely can elevate the sound, but I don't think it should be the be or end all.
100%.
I mean,
I remember I did that so often where I just buy random stuff thinking that that's what I needed, and then never even used it.
I bought a compressor and it was so bad, like, so I just wanted to record vocals with a little bit of compression, and I just ended up using the interface, and I just let the compressor collect dust. So
it's true. And that's another thing as well, if you just have a good interface,
you can make magic like that. I think with us now, we use hardware, and before we started using hardware, we learned to understand things like compressors, things like EQs, so that way when it came to using the hardware, we already understood how it works. And
mic placement is so important, man. If your mic placement is wrong and it's all off and you have great equipment and everything, your recording's still gonna sound not the greatest.
No, literally. Like 20, 30 years ago, you had to know a professional, someone to teach you how to use, you know, the big mixing desks and all of the hardware, essentially. Now you can be a bedroom producer. In the bedroom, you might not have a lot of space. So having a more compact piece of equipment just makes it easier to be able to create.
Having like two smaller Zengos and just linking them together, you've got all the ins and outs there as well. So how we use it is we can either connect the two together and have the Windows computer going through the Zengo, and then it's patched into the Zentor and then into the Mac, so we can play everything from the same system. Sometimes Rem will record at another studio, or I would record at another studio, and it keeps the same quality that we'll be used to 100%. As well. We were recording Deuce. And we were in the beat making process. I remember we switched from one interface to the Zengo, and the synth that we were using sounded completely different. And I remember you asked me like, "Oh, did you change the sound?" I was like, "I just changed the interface."
In a good way, by the way.
It just had a lot more depth to it.
It sounds crisp.
And the other experience that we had was, I think it was last week, jumped in the booth and recorded some sweet vocals. Recorded the exact same phrase on the Zentor and the Zengo. I couldn't tell the difference.
Identical.
Literally. Really couldn't tell the difference. You're getting the exact same quality, you're just getting less ins and outs. Everything else sounds exactly the same. I've never experienced that with any other interface.
Literally.
Our process is kind of pretty much to set and forget, and that's what's great about the Zengos. You don't really have to do too much.
Once it's set,
now we can just focus straight to the artist.
Let's say, for example, we've got an idea that, you know, we wanted to present to the artist. Literally, we play the idea, and there's no thinking. They're just like, I've got an idea, I need to get up and I need to put this down. If we have to do so much tweaks on the equipment before putting the idea down,
but spark's gone.
The spark's gone, and it takes more work to have to bring that energy back. You know, that's the great thing about the Zengo, is that once it's set, you can just literally record and then we're good to go.
And especially with the effects that comes with it as well, the quality of preamps and stuff. So if you do want to have that hardware kind of emulated sound, you can just record straight into it and use some of those effects. They sound amazing. But even without them, it gives us a great sound. Get distracted a lot at home. Whereas if here, you know, you don't get distracted as much.
We can play music super loud.
No complaints from neighbours.
When the artist comes here, we like them to feel at home, essentially, so that they can make music. We even have like conversations outside of music. It almost feels like therapy being here.
Just being in a different environment to, you know, where you're sleeping.
When you're in this room, you can just forget about everything else that's going on in the world.
It's
just
true.
Have fun and create. Thankfully, we've been blessed enough to have music that's come out and our work's been recognised. So financially, we've been able to go out and get a studio space. That wasn't always the case. So I put AJ Tracy in my bedroom, in my cupboard, literally.
With like clothes there acting as acoustics and stuff. Like you kind of make do with what you got, man.
If you know someone can invest in a space, then it will definitely help. Because sometimes we work with people we've never met before. Having a space kind of just makes it easier to break the ice.
And I think it does kind of make you take it a little more serious as well, because nothing makes you hustle harder than knowing that every month there's going to be a hefty bill at the end of it. So.
But I don't think it's the be or end all.
100%. Just think really smartly about what you're investing your money in, and
100%.
really think to yourself, do I need this now?
Yeah.
And is this gonna make me back my money that I just spent on this?
Yeah.
Really think about that first before just spending money willy-nilly.
For me, I feel like your ears are probably the most important thing, to be honest.
Yeah.
But then I'd be lying if I said that having more expensive equipment doesn't elevate your sound. It definitely does. It doesn't make the music any better or worse, in my opinion. And like, if an artist likes the sound that's coming from the gear, they're gonna come back. We've kind of got this set up in a way where like there might be like a third producer. We can go through the Zen Tour. We just plug them into the Zen Go, and then all three of us are hooked up. We can all sort of integrate our systems together.
All press a space bar at the same time.
Yeah. You know, a lot of up and coming aspiring producers are literally making records out of their bedrooms. Crazy, because we come from a time where producers had years of experience before they even got their first placement. On one hand, it's nice that, you know, anyone can get their music heard now.
Yeah.
But on another hand, you haven't learned certain skills, like, for example, being able to conduct sessions, how to communicate with the artist, understand certain things like sonics or how to record. It can make it difficult.
Because we've been doing it for so long, we're able to adjust and change it up when needed.
Yeah.
Whereas I feel like the ones that haven't had training and practicing their craft, they may struggle. You know, maybe they get brought into a session and they have to make something completely different to what they've been making for the past year. You know,
definitely being able to handle the pressure, you know, being able to prep before sessions, whether that's to have ideas or even just have a vision of what you want to make. You have to put in the time to just learn.
10 plus years we've been producing, there's been a lot of mistakes, and that comes up again in a studio session. We know, okay, cool, we've had this experience before, this is where we need to go to, this is what we need to do, this is what we need to change.
You know, you can just fix it like that, and the artist can turn around and be like, okay, they know what they're doing.
Exactly. And that's experience with that.
Yeah, exactly. Being able to have the right networking skills and communication skills to be able to connect with an artist and for them to say, you know what, I understand you, and vice versa. We can make some great music together. There's a lot of artists that we have relationships with that go beyond music, where we, you know, we can pick up the phone and call them and talk about not music. And believe it or not, that actually makes our working relationship even better. So when they do come to the studio, they feel absolutely comfortable to put their thoughts down.
It's music, you're having fun, you work with like-minded people as well.
The worst thing you can do is lose the artist, because once you've lost them, it's very difficult to bring them back.
They can pick up when you don't fully believe.
Yeah, so you have to trust your expertise, because a lot of the time with the artist will be like, what do you think? And if you say I don't know, then you get what I'm saying? You have to be able to say, you know what, we think this, we think that. You know, you give them sort of reassurance that ultimately they have to be happy with the product.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
I think you can just be yourself and be open and be real with an artist, and that makes a whole world of a difference.
You know, they're not right all the time. Sometimes 100%. You might have a great idea, but because you might be a bit scared to kind of voice it, you hear it back and you're like, you know, I wish I said this.
And
then the artist will come back to you and be like, oh, you know what, I want to change this. And it might be the same idea that you originally thought.
So you're almost scared to be wrong, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with being wrong.
Yeah, 100%.
We found loads of times.
Yeah, they're all learning experiences.
That's
like,
it.
There's been times where, you know, we were unprepared for a session. That's why we put so much emphasis on being prepared and having ideas or whatever.
And believe it or not, like, we failed to the point where we've lost opportunities. It's absolutely fine. I think
because we weren't prepared and we didn't believe in our skills.
Yeah, we were comfortable with the fact that we failed before.
Yeah,
and we're gonna fail again, many more times again, and that's absolutely fine, because I think failure creates greatness. I definitely feel like simplifying the process would be advice I'd give myself. Having less in the production, because it can become overwhelming for the artist to come up with ideas. So once it's simplified, it gives them more room and space and find pockets within the production.
Really and truly, it's the vocals that need to shine. So make sure that you're coming out with the strongest song because of the vocals.
Yeah.
It's a hard pill to swallow as a producer. Once you check the ego at the door, you make way better songs.
And I think from a recording standpoint, is using less on the chain. If you've got a great recording and not having the gain too high, that actually does a lot more than people realize, and then less is more.
100%.
I think failure is important, man.
Yeah. Someone said to you the failure.
Yeah,
what was it?
It was that if you fell once, you learn from it. If you fell. Sorry.
I thought you were Scott. I'm so sorry.
Bro, you just failed.
Yeah.
Learn from this.
But we learn from it.